welcome to Tudor Cooking with Claire. Now today I thought I'd make hippocras. You often see mentions of this in Tudor or medieval banquets or coronations and christening. At the end of a coronation or christening kind of ceremonies and banquets, you often hear of the Tudor people getting together and enjoying a drink of hippocras with spices or sort of comfits and wafers. And hippocras is a type of spiced wine, a bit like mulled wine. I had a look in this book, which is The Good Housewives Jewel, which is from first published in 1596, and it's by Thomas Dawson. And I looked up hippocras in this book because this is one of my favourite sources for sort of Tudor recipes. And it says, to make hippocras, take a gallon of white wine, sugar 2 pounds, of cinnamon, ginger, long pepper, mace not bruised, grains, galangal, and cloves not bruised. You must bruise every kind of spice a little and put them in an earthen pot all day, and then cast them through your bags 2 times or more as you see cause, and so drink it. And it's got a note at the bottom saying that hippocras is a spiced drink of red wine, said to have been invented by Hippocrates. But in Dawson's version, it's made with a white wine. Now, I had a look for a modern version of it, and I've got this great cookery book, really, really good at giving you modern versions of real historical recipes from real sources. And in this book, he's got quite a few different versions of hippocras, and he says they can be made with any type of wine. You can do it with white wine, you can do it with a red wine or a rosé. And he talks about actually leaving it to kind of stand with the spices for 1 to 4 days, whereas Dawson says to just do it for the day, all day. So I'm just going to do mine overnight and see what it's like. Perhaps if that isn't spiced enough, then I might want to leave it next time for a bit longer. But in this book, there's versions of a sweet hippocras, a rosé hippocras, a cream hippocras, a rosemary hippocras. There's all sorts of different versions of it. But the sweet hippocras, it talks about having a pint of wine, and I've got here some homemade wine. This is my husband's fig wine. We love figs, but we always have too many. We get given stacks of them by neighbours and that, so we end up, because you can't eat them fast enough before they sort of start to go off, we end up making wine out of them. So this is a fig wine, so I'm not sure what colour wine you'd call that. Not quite rosé, but not quite white either. So that's the wine I'm going to be using. I've got a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and I'm going to put that in. I've got a teaspoon, the same again, of ground ginger, but you could always use fresh ginger, I'm sure. I've got 2 ounces or 50 grams of sugar, and I'm just using granulated sugar. I mean, you could use caster sugar if you want it finer, but at the end of the day, it's going to be filtered anyway. So if it doesn't sort of get dissolved in the wine while the wine's sitting, then any bits of it will get filtered anyway. Now, because Thomas Dawson said in his 1596 recipe about bruising the spices a little, I've got 2 black peppercorns in here and 2 cloves, which are the ones mentioned in this modern day recipe. And he also mentions peppercorns and cloves in the 1596 one. You could also follow Thomas Dawson's recipe and add galangal, or you could make it up. You could add your own spices and just experiment. Now, because it says bruise them a little, meaning sort of squash them, mortar and pestle them a bit, I'm going to use my mortar and pestle, and I'm just going to bruise them slightly. I'm not going to grind them. I'm just bursting the peppercorns just very roughly. I'll show you. Not grinding them, They're not going to a fine powder. I'm just bruising them slightly just so that their flavours will come out into the wine. And I'm going to put that into the wine. And I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir. It's a lovely muddy liquid now. There's a lovely smell. I mean, the fig wine's got quite a strong smell anyway. It's very very warming wine. When you drink it, you feel the lovely warmth going down. And quite a sweet wine as well. It's not dry. And then I'm just going to leave that to sit overnight and see what it's like in the morning. And then I will see you later to show you the next step. Now the mixture of wine and spices has been sort of stewing, or just, well, I've just left it in a sort of cool place for 24 hours now. I'm just going to give it a stir. We'll see the sugar actually kind of settles on the bottom of it. So I'm just giving it a stir. Now the difference between this and mulled wine is when you're doing mulled wine, the spices are being sort of infused while you're heating the wine on the hob. But this is cold, there's no cooking involved at all. All I've done is mixed the spices with the wine, left it for 24 hours, and now I'm just going to filter it through a cheesecloth. If you haven't got a cheesecloth, then you can use a pair of tights, pantyhose, or anything, or a fine sieve, or anything like that that's kind of got fine fibres. And I'm just going to do it slowly. And that's going to catch all of the bits of peppercorn. Just let that drain for a minute. The bits of peppercorn, the bits of cloves, all the bits that you wouldn't really want to be having in a mouthful of drink. And just pause to let it filter through. You can really smell the wine and the spices. And as I said, you could put whatever spices you want. I mean, nutmeg is another one that you often see in Tudor recipes. And obviously Thomas Dawson's one had mace and galangal, so you could use those as well. Just experiment, really. And then perhaps serve it at the end of a nice dinner party with perhaps some nuts and some dried fruit. Oh, that's just draining. Get a nice sludge on top. Now, because I want to show you, I'm actually going to take that off. Give it a squeeze just to get the last remnants. It's a bit like a tea bag. Okay. And now I'm going to have a taste. I'm just going to have a little bit. So it's cloudy because of the spices, and that plus our homemade wine wasn't exactly clear. So yours would probably be a lot clearer with the shop bought wine, but I'm going to have a taste. Wow. You can't say that Tudor people didn't like their highly spiced foods. That is really, really warming. Just the kind of thing you'd want perhaps if you've been waiting out in the cold, processing back from you know, the abbey for a coronation, or a church from the christening, going back to the chambers and having Hippocras and comfits and spices would definitely be warming. That is really, really nice. I can't even say which spice which spice I can taste. It's just a real mixture. It's really nice. I think I'll be doing this again. Lovely, really good. So, cheers.